the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for June 19th. Day 171 of the year so far. We're going to cherish this time we've got of no systems active, because that usually means that things will be very active in the not too distant future. But that is the good news, that no storms are active right now, with only one or two areas of interest. 20% chance in the next 5 days for an area of interest in the Atlantic that's yet to really get going, but by the end of the 5-day forecast period we could potentially have what could be a tropical cyclone. Day 36 in the eastern Pacific, a 10% chance for an area in the easternmost part of the ocean. A few other little areas there as well, but nothing that's up with a 10% threshold anymore. No systems active in the western Pacific, very quiet, rather unexpectedly perhaps you could say. And also unexpectedly, a 10% chance has now been issued near Indonesia by Force 13 for a potential cyclone developing in the Indian Ocean. That could be next week. Looking at the North Atlantic right now, the main feature, and probably what you've been seeing elsewhere across social media today, is how large that Saharan air layer has become. The Saharan dust being blown over. It does happen from time to time, but this appears to be a particularly strong burst. Looking at the Gulf of Mexico as well, things fairly quiet. You can see that line of thunderstorms, which really stems from the eastern Pacific. You can follow it all the way to that 10% area that we have marked. Nothing on the horizon right now that you can see, but eventually you will get something that enters the eastern Pacific that will have that 10% tag we foresee. That's what we're expecting. And the long-term model's calling for quite a bit of development in the eastern Pacific. In the longer term, that's got less confidence about it, though. We'll have to wait and see. The western Pacific, you can see what we did once have as a small chance of development, which is moving over the Philippines now, delivering some thunderstorms. As you can see, nothing going on with that, just some local thunderstorm weather and inclement conditions. And in the South Pacific, one or two raised eyebrows over that area south of the Solomon Islands, but not much going on with it now. And in the Indian Ocean, homing in on the central equatorial region there as we look towards Indonesia for that potential new cyclone, but no signs of it yet. You'll probably only see it on day 3 or 4. Sea surface temperatures in the eastern Pacific still very punctuated with that cool pool to the south towards the equator. Remarkable there. La Nina certainly intensifying by the looks of things. The Atlantic getting back to normal after Cristobal, the Gulf of Mexico that would be, and the rest of the Atlantic warming up. We're still on trend really with those strong years 2010, 2005. We'll have to continue to monitor that closely. The Indian Ocean region, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, and the Western Pacific fairly warm as well, all the way up to Taiwan. Pretty normal for the time of year, but there is a lot of heat potential in that Western Pacific basin, and the South China Sea in particular above average there, and you can't not notice that La Nina in the Eastern Pacific, and also a bit of a cool splash now in the subtropical Atlantic too, which is interesting. On this day in 1972, Hurricane Agnes formed in the Gulf of Mexico and was about to make landfall. Landfall would occur late in the day on the 19th. Category 1 landfall, but known for its flooding much further north towards the northeastern part of the United States. The damages from Agnes in real terms, in terms of buildings affected, was the worst seen between the actual storm itself and Hurricane Andrew. Wasn't beaten until Andrew 20 years later. Of course, in the 60s there were a few storms that were worse than Agnes though. So next on the Atlantic naming list will be Dolly. In the Eastern Pacific, Boris is next up, and I'm pretty sure we'll see it fairly soon. In the Central Pacific, the next name on list 1 is Hone. Over in the Western Pacific, the next name there is Sinlaku, followed by Hagapit, and in the North Indian Ocean on the brand new list, Gati, followed by Nivar on the new list 1. In the Australian region, the next name is Imogen, followed by Joshua. In the southwest Indian Ocean, Kundai next on the list, and in Fiji in the South Pacific, Yolanda. Of course, if this Indonesian storm forms, it would get a local name from Jakarta, and that name would be Siroja. Check out our new look cyclone tracker on the Force 13 website for the latest up-to-date information. You can also find us, of course, on our YouTube channel, search Force 13, and also on Facebook and Twitter, Force 13 at Force 13 on Twitter for the latest updates. You can also help the project become even better by becoming an Ultimate Fan on YouTube. To see the full list of Ultimate Fan benefits and to join, visit youtube.com/force13/join. With a special thanks to our top supporters this month. You can also check out our growing merch store so you can show Force 13's colours wherever you go. You can also find a link to our Discord server underneath this video in the description.